Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome on Learn Grasshopper Live. If you are already with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, just give thumbs up and just write on the chat if you can hear me and see my screen. Together, my guest is Marcin. Hello, Marcin. Can you hear me?
Hi, I can hear you. Nice.
Yeah, perfect. Where are you based right now?
I'm in Trondheim right now.
And still at the university?
Still at the university. It's still open.
It's still open, so it's 7 p.m. University in Norway is still open. Do you see
Yeah.
some students there still, or students are already in dormitories?
No, it's only professors now. So, yeah.
Jose is with us. Hello, Jose. We'll start in just 1 minute. Just as always, if you can just leave a like or comment on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, it will really help us to reach more people and do more workshop like this. Let me see. I will check if everything is all right. We'll wait just 1 more minute and we will start exactly at 7 p.m. So, Marcin, what we are going to do today? What you have prepared for all our audience?
So, what I have prepared is a workshop which is strongly connected to the building design with residential building design. So, we will try to make a parametric plugin or a parametric algorithm for creating a building, and it all will be wrapped into the plugin for Grasshopper, of course, and we'll be working from Visual Studio. So
Perfect. So we are going outside Grasshopper. So it will be first time in Learn Grasshopper series that we are going outside of Grasshopper.
Yeah, so we are going for the native environment into the Visual Studio. So we will be creating a plugin outside from the Rhino. So
Perfect. We have Juan from Chile. We have Motivational Guru from Sanjeev, Finland. Hello, Timo. Nice to see you. Italy. We have Sergey from Canada. Just let us know also in the comments today. We have a special at 7 p.m. Central European time. Just let us know if this time is okay for you. I see some people from the North and South America, so maybe it's a little bit better for them because it's a morning. So just give a comment on that if this time is okay. If you're from Europe, maybe it's a little bit late, but just let us know what do you like. We have also people from Ålesund. Hello, Cesar. Nice to see you. For sure, on Ålesund and Trondheim, it's similar weather.
and the time zone is the same.
And the time zone. Okay, so we have also from New York City. Yeah, so maybe this is the good hint that more people from America will join. Okay, hello everyone. Thaddeus, nice to see you. Even perfect time for me. Okay, perfect. Let's start. So today workshop it will be 2 hours. This is our plan. We will wait also for all your questions. So if you have any questions, so please let us know. But we will try not to go over 2 hours. I got already some question if this is going to be recorded. Yes, this is going to be recorded and we are going to put it on YouTube, but only link will be shared with people who register. So if you still haven't registered, go to learngrasshopper.com/workshop grasshopper C# and you will get all the recordings. This workshop is for you, and we are all of us. We are going to follow Marcin. So please, if you have any questions, so please write that in the comments. And if you will have any problems, just remember that we are live. This session is recorded live, but you can always make a pause, just come back, or maybe even change the speed of the live. So remember about that. So today, Marcin is going to show us how to build a Grasshopper component in the Visual Studio, and we are going also to share our work. So Marcin is going to produce some C# code that you can also reuse, but the aim is that you are going to produce this code together with Marcin. For those who are first time on the Learn Grasshopper, so hello for everyone from me. My name is Krzysztof Wojsław. You can call me Chris. I'm an online educator of Grasshopper and in general programming in ESE, and I have created learning platform. So I'm now 100% on YouTube, blog. So this is my work now. And together today with me is Marcin Luczkowski. He is called C# Wizard. This is all the rumors said that is one of the best in the industry. Marcin works as an associate professor at the NTNU, at the Norwegian University of Technology in Trondheim. Is in the middle of Norway, almost close to the polar circle. No, maybe it's not that close, but it's almost there. Almost there.
Almost.
Marcin is also working as a structure engineer at a really well-known Norwegian company called Multiconsult. So Marcin combined this knowledge, theoretical knowledge from the university and practical. He's still working on the engineering projects. And he's also a supervisor of all the most talented engineers. All the engineers that are coming to Norwegian companies are over guidance of Marcin. So they are starting with the working as a structure engineers, and already they know Grasshopper, they know Python, and know C#. So it's really fun to see how young generation is really changing our industry. Okay, so for everyone, before this workshop, we send 3 steps that you should do before this workshop. So first one was to install the Visual Studio community. I sent the link. I also shared all the links right now in the chat. So go to Visual Studio community. If you don't have, please install right now, because this is an environment that we are going to work. Second thing, I hope that all the followers on Learn Grasshopper has the Rhino installed. We are going to use Rhino 8 in this workshop. And the last but not least, Marcin also shared a nice document that all the steps for all installation are write down what to do. But this is what you're supposed to have. So for those who haven't installed, most important is to have Visual Studio community and Rhino 8. If you have that, so you are ready to go with the workshop. So this is we will start in just a 1-minute workshop. So prepare your computer, prepare Visual Studio and your Rhino. So Marcin, you can share your screen, so I can show it. So where we are going to start? Are we going to first start with Grasshopper, or are we going to just go to Visual Studio?
I think I will start with just pure Rhino and Grasshopper, and then in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I will go and open the Visual Studio. So is my screen shared right now?
Yes. Yeah. So now everyone see your Rhino and Grasshopper. And for those who are first time, so this is one of the first workshops about using C# and Visual Code. So we will start to do this workshop from beginning, from scratch, really basic. So if you have any question, please let us know. I'm going to moderate, and we are going to ask Marcin. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So I will go directly into maybe not presentation, but generally to the concept. So the concept is to create a plugin today. And what is exactly a plugin? Since the Grasshopper, it's already a plugin to the Rhino. So the fact is that probably all of you or some of you have been using some plugins which you see here. And some commands on the ribbon. Let's call it a ribbon for the purpose of this workshop. Generally, as you can see, I have some from Caramba 3D, FemDesign, Speckle 2, Link EP, or FemDesign. So all of those has been created in the way how we will be doing it today. So if you want to create such kind of the plugin, then definitely this workshop will be a very good first step to do it. I will try to be quite slow, but unfortunately, if we want to finish some some kind of the plugin, we need to also have some kind of the tempo. So maybe for some of you who are very good in C#, it will be too slow, but it will be basic of the basics. And I think I will also make some simplification during the creating a plugin. I will try to mark them, and not everything will be super perfect, but I hope the whole algorithm will be working, and you will see the concept of the plugin very fast. Generally, you should not be afraid of creating a codes from the Visual Studio. Probably a lot of you or some of you have been trying to do the C# scripting from Grasshopper or Python scripting from Grasshopper. I think generally the Visual Studio environment is creating it much more easy to do. So in fact, you will probably get in love with this style of doing it from the Visual Studio, because Visual Studio also in the new version, it's learning your style of scripting. So after some time, he will try to suggest you the correct command, which you can approve with the tab function. But we will, I will also show you that. But let's maybe do it right now, step by step. So I will just close the Rhino 8, close Grasshopper, of course, and I will just open Visual Studio. As Chris was mentioning, generally, I hope all of you have installed a Visual Studio, since I am using it quite often, but I try to clean the Visual Studio and the Rhino from not necessary plugins, just for the purpose of this workshop. So generally, when you are starting Visual Studio 2022, it's highly recommended to run it as administrator. In my case, I could just click it because in the properties I marked to open always as the administrator. But remember to do it, because generally we will be saving the Grasshopper plugin file on our C drive. And to do it, generally, we need administration law. So I will click it, and Microsoft Visual Studio 2002 will start to open. Obviously, you don't have this part because this is the elements which I have, but probably all of you have those options on the right side of your screen. And generally, what we want to do today, we don't want to clone a repository from the GitHub or open a project which we don't have. We just want to create completely new project. I hope all of you managed to install the extension for the Grasshopper. So if I will click it, I should have the template for the Grasshopper, not on the left side because this is recent project template, so probably you don't see this. But here on the search line, if I will type Grasshopper, for example, sorry, some small freeze. I will have two options. So Grasshopper assembly for Rhino 3D with the C# inside the parenthesis, and the Grasshopper assembly for Rhino 3D with the VB. This is Visual Basic. I am not using Visual Basic today, so also you and me should choose this C#.
So Visual Basic for those is another language, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit older Microsoft language. C# is a little bit newer, but yeah, I think most of the people are using C#. Remember that the whole Grasshopper and Rhino also as a desktop application for the Microsoft, it's written in the C#. So generally C# will be much closer to the core of the software. So I will click next.
Just one question. What if someone cannot open software as an administrator? There will be some problems with that?
It can be a problem with that. It cannot. We can see, because then probably you will have to do one step manually, because you will be able to produce the GHA file, but it's highly recommended to do it as the administrator. but every system is a little bit different, so it's hard to predict how your computer will behave. But I will show you in a few minutes how to deal with this if this problem will be crucial.
And these templates that you showed, you have to download somewhere, or they are already installed?
Yeah.
Or
no, they are not already installed. Generally, if you don't have them, if you click then continue without code in this place, then everybody should have this link. Then it will open the basic Visual Studio, and then you need to go into the extensions and manage extensions, and then you can download generally the Rhino extension. So here, Rhino, and then you will have a project templates for Rhino 3D. If you click those ones, it's already with the green mark, so I cannot click install or download. But generally, if you there is the second one, so it should be a download button. If you will download it, then you have to restart the Visual Studio. And then this templates should appear. It should be quite quick to download them, so you can do it also right now. But anyway, if you will create a new project right now and choose this Grasshopper.
It doesn't have to be like because you install Rhino, but it doesn't matter. You can. It's because it's called Grasshopper assembly to Rhino.
Assembly, and in fact, if you are using Rhino 7, it should also work. So I think it should not cause any problems. So if I will click next now, I will be able to configure my first new project. And a lot of those things we can change later. But since we want to have some kind of the order, let's make it the correct name. Let's call it Chris Workshop. And maybe 2024. And as you can see, the location, see users, then my name, source, repos. This is the place where the whole project will be saved. So all the files which we'll be producing will be saved in this particular location. You can change it if you don't have the access to the repos, but probably all of you have. But generally, the name of the project and the location, solution name, it's output of those two. So generally, this is all what we have to change here, and I will click create. From now on, we create the whole repository in the repository. Just to let you know, you can call a repository generally a folder with all of the files. So when somebody is telling I have a repository on the GitHub, generally it means that it has some kind of the space in the web, a folder in which he's holding all of the files.
It's just a fancy name for programmers to say that it's an online folder, repo.
Yeah, exactly. So to make it simple, we could call it a folder, but to get used to it, to the slang, to the nomenclature, let's use a repository. So from now on, we are not saving the files in the folder, but we are saving the files in the repository. So we are now the programmers.
Niklas said that has installed and ready to go. So we know that someone is following us. So it's a good sign.
Okay. So yeah, it's the online type of the workshop. So I understand that some of you will just want to watch. They don't want to just follow every step. But it is very nice that somebody at least is trying. I will really try to keep the tempo for the beginners, so that you don't lose the time only for watching. But generally, add on display name. This is what we will be display. Component class name. This is some name of the component, and the component, it's generally the component which you are dragging from the ribbon. So automatically he's creating his first component, and the nickname for it could be, for example, workshop test. And the category is the name on the ribbon which you see, like, for example, Caramba 3D, Fem Design, or Mesh. So this will be actually the name which you will see in Grasshopper. So let's call it a workshop. And the subcategory, it's when you click on the ribbon and then you see the smaller packages of the components. So this is a subcategory. Let's call it a test. And the description is just a description. So this is testing component. And then the minimum target version Rhino 8 stays for me. Here, I generally don't change anything. I'm just clicking finish. So all of those things we can change also later. I will show you how to do it. But it's also nice to make it meaning, at least the category and the subcategories already right now. Creating of the project should not take too much time. Generally, the Grasshopper files made from the Visual Studio are quite light, so they don't demand even big, strong computers. It needs a little bit of time until it all will be updated. And then, as you can see, all of the things which we have been putting into the system, right now it's also visible here. So the Chris Workshop Component 2024, Workshop Test, Testing Component, Workshop Test. So in fact, we already have the first component. So just to check, I will go for the build and build the solution. This will be my first verification if everything is okay. And in fact, it built, it succeed, 0 failed, 0 up to date, 0 skipped. So in the bottom, in the output, you can generally observe how does the compiling of the file has proceed. So here, generally, he give us a time, and this is the main programming window. So let's go in our working space today. On the right side, we see the Solution Explorer. If you don't see some of them, you can always go for the window and tools to bring some of those. But generally, the Solution Explorer, it's giving you the insight for the repository, so the folder which has been created in the specific location which we choose on the beginning. And those are actually the files which are already there. But I think the most interesting is to click this green button in the center, so Rhino Net Core. If I will click it, the Rhino 8 will start to run. So you see diagnostic tools in the place of the Solution Explorer has appeared, and we see how much of the memory we are using right now when we are using Rhino. The Rhino and the Grasshopper, it's starting automatically. I'm not clicking here anything right now. We are just waiting until he will open the Rhino and Grasshopper. And what we see also, that we create our first ribbon. So the ribbon workshop and the test, it's bringing us the Chris Workshop Component 2024. So we already have something. And maybe it's not very meaningful and it's not having any input and output.
But we have something. So
exactly.
Good start.
It's a very good start. It's like the rocket has started. We don't know where it is aiming, but something is happening. We can celebrate already.
And display button in Visual Studio, it's because of the extension, right?
Yes, it's because of the extension. And then we don't see the icon like the other has very fancy icons. I'm not sure if we will show it today how to do it, but it's also not so problematic to do the icon. But generally, let's try. Oh yeah, one thing. As you can see, we have also workshop test. So if I will go over here, we see that the nickname it's workshop test. So generally, if I will change the display into not draw full names, but the short names, then we have the workshop test. Okay. So if we will change it, then it will change it also here. So I will keep to the draw full names. I like to keep on it when I'm teaching people because the full names are there. So the workshop, it's the ribbon name. The test is this name here, test. And the Chris Workshop Component 2024, it's of course the name of the component. Okay.
People write that it works, so
yeah,
everything's good.
Very good. then if at least one of you, for one of you it is working, it means that it should work for everybody. But of course, to be honest, I have to say that the beginning it's maybe the most frustrating when something is not working because the computer has a different specification, because we are using a different .NET framework. We install a little bit wrong on the beginning, the Visual Studio, something is not compatible, or you don't have the administrator rules because your company block it from you. It's really all of those. It's really painful, but once it works, or it should works forever, at least, until at least some other IT guy will not change the system. Okay, two things. Right now, I am going into Visual Studio. I'm not closing the Rhino. It's still there, but take a look that we have a pause button and the stop button. The pause, it's named break, and the stop, it's a stop. So at least this is exactly like we would predict. But the breaking mode, it's allowing us to pause computing of the code. So right now, as you can see, the process memory, it's not calculating. Generally, in the Rhino and the Grasshopper, I cannot click. So I am right now in the break mode. I can change the code. Small changes I can apply right now. I will say what is the small and the big change. But generally, right now, I can modify the code a little bit without restarting the whole process. The stopping of the debugging will close the Rhino and Grasshopper, and it will lead to the situation that I will have to restart again the Rhino and the Grasshopper, which is a little bit time taking, because always putting it into the break mode, it's quite fast. It's a second, so I can compute it again, so I can click continue. It doesn't load the Rhino and Grasshopper again, so it's not loading all of the plugins. It's just a second, and we are back into the using the Grasshopper. When breaking, unfortunately, I will click it right now because I want to make some big changes into the code, because I want to create new components into our workshop plugin. So I will just click stop it. And you see that the diagnostic tool has disappeared, and the Rhino and the Grasshopper also has disappeared. Also, it's a kind of the important to understand that when we will stop it, even if we create a very big spaghetti, it will not save. It will not even create an automatic save if we will not save it into the Grasshopper, because the Rhino is controlled from the Visual Studio. So if we are strongly pushing it to stop, it will just close all of the commands and immediately stop the Rhino.
So we'll have to remember to save the Visual Code Studio.
The files there which we are creating. But I will show it on when we will have a little bit more of the code.
Do you have any idea what can be an error about the .NET SDK version?
Yeah, we can, and unfortunately, it will lead you to changing I think one of the problem can be that either you don't have administrator laws, but probably if you have it, then the problem is that when you were installing Visual Studio, you didn't choose the newest SDK framework. So in the file which I sent to everybody, I think I was there was the arrow to choose the specific net framework. It's a little bit of the hack to do it. So I can maybe help you after the workshop or during some break, but I would like to have the flow. So let's
let's continue. Like Sergey just said that it works for him without administration rights. So for now. So let's continue.
Let's continue. Let's try to add another elements, because I would like, or maybe before we will go for the another elements, we will try to give some inputs and outputs, because this is maybe something interesting. So I will go to the line 28. And
so this is everything here. It's used automatically. All the lines, all the text is a template.
Yeah, this is a template which you get when you are downloading the extension for creating the plugin. So this you get. You don't have to download it. You don't have to change anything, and probably the lines of the codes are for now, for everybody exactly the same. So if I'm saying line 28, it means that I am referencing to this 28 on the left side of the command window. But generally, if you will take a look and find the register input params, this is a place when we are placing our inputs. And on the beginning, it's a little bit more problematic to get used to this semantic and to this how the structure is looking. But after a while, you will see that, in fact, it is very well organized. And if I will click enter here, and in those brackets, I will start to type a code. Generally here, I can add inputs, as many inputs as I want, but generally in the Grasshopper, as we all know, the less inputs, the less outputs, the more automatic the code is. But let's make this code very simple. I will give him to the component the text, and I want to have the same text on the other side of the component. So to add an input, I have to use an object which is called pmanager, which is here. So I will type pmanager. It is turning light blue. And then after a dot, it is opening me the list of the methods or properties which I can use. And if I will type add text parameter and open the brackets, then inside of the parentheses, then in those parentheses, I should be able to write a correct formula. And the formula, if you don't know it, then the Visual Studio will immediately help you in doing it. So generally, if I can see here, unfortunately, I cannot zoom to this help from the Visual Studio, but it is saying that he needs 4 inputs: name, nickname, description, and the type of the access. So I will give him to it. So I will make apostrophes, because making apostrophes, it's changing everything what we are doing into the text. And also the color is changing to be an orange color. Mm-hmm. And I will call it input. The second I will call I, because this will be the short name. And here it's the input, which can, or should be text. And the last thing after the comma, I will go for the GH, and he will automatically start to help me and suggest the GH param access. And we will have 3 options: item, list, or tree. So if I will choose GH param access and then the dot, we generally have 3 types, which probably all of us which are familiar with the Grasshopper already recognize. So the item is the single item. The list is, of course, the collection, which is kind of in the vector shape, in the list shape, in the array shape. And then we have famous trees. I will choose the item. I will start very simple.
And I just have questions. So all the Grasshopper components have to be specify inputs in this way, if it will be item, a list, or a tree, or yes. It's okay.
It has to be like this. Of course, the most generic, it's the tree. So if you will choose the tree, the item always can be a the tree. Okay. The list always can be an item, but unfortunately, not every item can be a list. But I will generally, it's nice to have it in the order. So if you expect an item, it's better to use the item. If you expect to use list, it's better to use lists. But what we need in the outputs, because here are the place in the line 36 to 39, I will make exactly the same. So I will not waste the time to do it. I will just copy paste it. So pmanager add text parameter, I will just change the names. So here I want to have the output O, and the output, which should be text. And the item is staying the item access. So in fact, we have everything. So we have register input params and the outputs.
Yeah, one thing, if someone is not seeing the numbers on the left, this one, where is it, in the window, or?
I think it was in the windows. I don't remember exactly where, but Sorry for that. Maybe in the view it was called. I forget. Sorry.
No worries. I will also check that one.
Yeah, I think it should be somewhere here, but I don't remember where it was.
Yeah, you can continue. I can just also check on mine.
Yeah, and then the next thing what we want to do, we want to connect the inputs with the outputs. So we have to create some body, the main body of the algorithm. And this one we are creating in the place which is called SolveInstance. So it is to solve the instance. And generally, this is the main body of your code, the main place where you are putting your algorithms and learning how to control. And most of the job, it's exactly in those brackets. So here, it's the place where you are really creating the algorithms. So first, we need to tell to this, let's say, to this place, what is the input and what is the output. And to do it, we have to first reference to the DA, because this is a data access, put a dot, and place the get data. So here, I will be getting the data from the input. The first thing is to give him the index of the input. So this is the 0, because generally it's indexing from 0 in C#, exactly the same as in Python. So we have a 0 as the first, because this is the first one. So this is 0. If I will add an extra one, it will be the first one. So the order in which we are placing our inputs should be, or it is important. Then we are using reference, and let's call it a text. But he will have a problem because he doesn't know what is the text. So we have to create an empty instance of this text. So I will use string. And then I will say that this string text, it's empty. And
so
then
you have to define every time the empty instance if you would like to use it before using it.
Yeah, it is like this for the items, for the list, and for the data trees. We first have to create a place in the memory in which we will be holding those data. So unfortunately, it is like this, and I didn't see any other option to make it. So set data, it's setting the data. So it is sending the data into outside of the component. So it will be referencing to the output. And as you can see already, Visual Studio in the gray color, it's suggesting me the solution. I will click tab to accept it, but he made one error because he suggests number 1, but the outputs are generally also indexing from 0. So here should be the 0. So finally, we have everything what we would like to have in our first component. We have the input, we have the output, we are creating some kind of the variable. We are placing the text which will come in the input into this variable, and we are sending it back to the output. So get, set, it's something which will be repeating today a little bit, but let's try to run it, and let's see how our component looks like right now.
In the meantime, I'm going to answer Konrad. Yes, the session is recorded, and it will be shared for everyone who register. So I will also send you a link. So the same question from Raul. Yes, it's going to be recorded, but if you have to register on the website. So I'm going to share that with you.
Okay, so we are in Grasshopper. I'm going for our workshop, and I will bring our component. As you can see, it has the input and it has the output. Let's try to fill this data with some text of the name text. And let's see if it's working. So hopefully it will have exactly the same value here and here. So it is working. And what we will do right now, we will try to modify it without stopping the code. So this time I will click break, so not stop, not the red button, but just breaking. And it is the application is in break mode. Is the first information which you get. You are going then there to the component which you are interested in. If you can always go on the right side and you see the Solution Explorer, click on it and click on the Chris Workshop component 2024. And here you can start to modify the text. So let's say that the text which we create here should be now equal to the text plus some text. And I will click continue. So I just introduce this small part of the information. So I'm taking the variable. I am saying add to the end of this variable some text. So it's pretty dummy, but I want to just show you how the breaking is working, because if I will click continue, I don't see this some text because I need to recompute. You all know the recompute, but generally to every text which we'll be bringing here, it will work with some text. And now what if I will give him a series into input? You see that he handled to make the list. Although the input should be just an item, he managed to make it. So it's not that if we will declare on the beginning that this is only the item and this is only the list input, then it will work. In theory, you should always be very how to say, careful about choosing them, but generally it's about also the data and how you want to work with it. So right now, if this input in fact is a list, unfortunately, since I specified as the get data and register input parameter, it is an item, not a list, I'm not able, for example, to loop over those elements and to search through it and to sort it, because he thinks this is just an item. So in fact, this component, it's not, although he's giving a correct answer, something which we would expect to have, unfortunately, we are not able to make the operation on the list. We are just, it is just possible to make, it's just running several times.
Yeah, and I just showing the comment from Juan. I think this is about what you are saying, but he's asking, is it advisable to always leave the access parameter as a tree, since we most of the time working with the tree? Why it's not advisable?
Because generally, first of all, you would also have to, if there will be just a single item, you would have to create a specific, every time you will be running this code, you should then have to create a special instruction. What if the data tree is so small? And generally, we will try to make a data tree today. So I will show you that working with the data trees, it's not so easy as it could look like. So you need to use a special instruction to work on the data trees. So although they can handle a lot of, they are most generic and they can handle a lot, also using them, it's a little bit more complicated. So something for something. The more generic the code is, the more flexible it is, probably the more of the code you have to create to make such kind of the code. So it's exactly the same with the lists. Generally, lists, we have a lot of libraries and a lot of methods to deal with the list, like with the sorting and with the removing item from the list. So it all is connected that with the instructions. So when you are using a list, of course, it is possible to apply those methods. But you are losing the also the possibility to make to work with the items, which is, it's just something for something. And it's in every programming language like that. So also the same, it's to the Python. So I am referencing a lot of Python because a lot of people know Python. And if you declare something as the list, you cannot use it directly as the item. in Python as well. So,
but it's clear. But it's clear now. So great, great answer.
So I will go and again stop the debugging because I want to already create a proper components for our workshop. So I will stop it. You already know how to create the inputs. You already know how to create a simple outputs, and you also know how to take it into the main body of the algorithm. Since we want to create a plugin, we would like to have several components which are talking to each other. Let's at least create 2 of them on the beginning, and later we'll see if we'll have time to create more of them. I don't want to create a new project because in this project we already have everything what we want. I want to create in this project another component. So take a look here because it's important. You're clicking on the Chris workshop or whatever you call it with this C# icon on the left side, right clicking on it, clicking add, and the new item. I will wait a second because for some of you it can. And then if I click on this new item, I should have this kind of the window. And I will search for something which is with the Grasshopper. Also here you have the rhinoceros, so you can choose this one. Use a Grasshopper component, not Rhino common command. So I'm choosing this one, and already here I will call it as create building. So
what is the main difference between the using Grasshopper component and empty Rhino command?
It's if you would do the plugin for the Rhino, you should use the Rhino command.
Okay.
command.
Yeah.
It has a different template. So exactly those things with the inputs, outputs, and all the things, it's changing the template. So if I will click create building, I will have a new setup. Again, the category, I want to stay in the workshop. I don't want to create another category for it. Subcategory, I will call it building category, subcategory. And create building, it's okay. The nickname can stay just create. And the description, it's a description. So whatever you will put it, it doesn't really matter, but create a building class. So this is what I give. I will give you 10 seconds to follow, but generally don't worry about this because those are just strings. So they are not influencing on any code or on the algorithm itself. It's just a name. You can always change it during the creation of the plugin. But I want to have one more component. So I will do exactly the same, clicking right with the right mouse button on the Chris Workshop 2024, going for the add, choosing the new item, and choosing another empty Grasshopper component. This time I will call it Deconstruct Building. So once we will create a building class, I would like to deconstruct it. So similar to when we have
like a point, constructing the point and deconstructing the point, or plain.
And deconstructing a point, because point is generally also a class, is also an object in the C#. The same, the brep, for example, we can deconstruct the brep. So I will stay with the nomenclature, which is repeating in Grasshopper. So deconstructing a building, I will click add. So we have create building, deconstruct building, and what we want to have more. We would like to have, I will change the description. So deconstruct building, nickname, deconstruct, description, deconstruct building class, category workshop, subcategory building. I want to stay in the same subcategory as the creating of the building. And what next is that I would like to have one separate class, pure class. I will show you what was it in a second, into the repository. So right clicking on the Chris Workshop 2024, clicking add, and let's use the new item. And this time I will not use rhinoceros, but I will go for the simple class. So I'm clicking C# items and generally choosing a simple class. And I will call it building. So very simple class, C#, and you can see that there is no template, no input, outputs, no workshop information, no categories, nicknames, and so on. This is a very simple file in which we will be specifying what is in reality the building. And generally, maybe we can start from here, although it's not very, it's not very, it will not affect on the component and its appearance, but it's very important, because what is a class in the C# and in every object-oriented language? It's the way how we describe things. So we can call it a recipe, instruction, description, but generally, if you have let it be, for example, this point which Chris mentioned, generally every point has to have X, Y, and Z coordinate, but it can also have, for example, ID, some information like this, or the name, or something like that. So every of those properties are created in the way how we will be doing it right now. So if we have a building, I would like this building to have, for example, a list of columns. I will then click enter, or maybe before the list of the columns, I will first give him a name. So I will type string and name. And I don't care how it is called right now, because this is not a place to declare the name. This is just a way to describe how these objects can look like. So I'm just saying to the compiler, hey, this object should have a property name, so that we can name it during work within inside the running the code. So we have a string name. If I will click enter, he's suggesting something which I don't want to introduce right now, because this is a very basic thing, a very basic tutorial. And I
but in the great, but always the great text is something that is suggesting, and in Visual Code Studio, it's suggesting based on experience from before, right?
Yes,
or is
it is experience, and also it has his own memory. So generally, it's also suggesting the correct correct solution or the next line of the code. But this time I will get to this point of this public string name. Right now, I want to just stay with the string name, and I want to add something more. I want to create a list, and I want to create a list of line type. So you already know the line from the Grasshopper, and I want to call it columns. And when I type semicolon at the end of every line in the C#, we are adding semicolon. Generally, I see that there's some problem. The line, it's not, it cannot find the reference to the line. So generally, my compiler doesn't know what is it. And it's nice that Visual Studio is already suggesting you where is the problem during the writing of the code. So what we can see here, that he doesn't know what is the line. But if we will go on the beginning of the code, on the line 1 to 5, you see that he's using some libraries. But none of these libraries, it's referencing to the Rhino objects. So one of the problems which he can have with this basic class is that he is not using a proper library. So I will go into the Chris workshop component, and I will go back here. I will go to the top of my code. And I see that normally he's adding using Grasshopper kernel, and using Rhino geometry. In the components, which generally when we are adding new components, we were choosing the correct template. And when we were choosing it from the templates from the Rhino Grasshopper, he was giving it automatically in the beginning of the code. So we didn't have to think about it. But when we choose a very basic class from the C#, he didn't know that we want to create something with Rhino and with Grasshopper, so he didn't add those lines of the code. I will just copy it, and I will just move it to my building class. And I will paste it here. And after a second, my line should turn the color into green one. And generally, also the using Rhino geometry, it's turning white. So it means that this is used in this code. So the gray ones are not used. So in fact, I could just delete it. But I will stay with them because maybe I will use them in the future. Nobody knows.
Yeah, this is a good comment. I didn't see any difference, but now I see the difference that I are white and gray, and the order doesn't matter, right? Of using libraries.
No, the order doesn't really matter. So when it comes, of course, it is compiling it from the beginning till the end, but he's stopping debugging or compiling here, and then he's starting to use the namespace and internal classes. So in fact, how you will order the using, it doesn't really matter. Now, one more extra thing which we want to add to the building, let's add the slabs, and the slabs should be the breps. So I will type list brep, another object from the rhino.geometry. So, and I will call it slabs. Okay, so we create our first class. So this is the first object which you created from the scratch, and it has the name, it has the columns and the slabs. Maybe not so much, but on the other side, it will be quite impressive when we'll finish this workshop, I hope. So let's try to use it. I will not run it because generally we don't have a components to create the building. So I will go into the create building. And in the create building, I generally need to have some inputs, outputs, and I then will be able to create my building. So I will start with the inputs. And the inputs, let's say that I would like to have only one input. It will be a brep. So I will go for the pmanager dot add brep, and here I will type item access, and I will call it a brep b and brep, which in a second will be building. So this is the description. You can be more creative when you are describing it. And then when it comes to the outputs, and this is the, just to let you know, this is the item input. And when it comes to the output, this time I don't want to have a brep as the output. I want to have our class, a building class. And to not going into the details, because this workshop, it's quite, it should be quite short. So I will go for the pmanager and use something very generic, which is called generic parameter. So it will handle everything. So it could be also a brep, it could be an endpoint. The generic parameter will take everything. So I will go for the gh-param access item. I will finish the line with the semicolon and call it building. And this is my building class. Nice. We have one output. So let's try to do something with it. I will go into the line SolveInstance and try to make the code. And the scenario here, it's exactly the same always. First, we have to declare some empty variable. So I need a brep. I will call it brep from small letter, and then type new brep. As you can see, he already start to suggest me the new brep and the brackets, so I just accept it with the tab. And one thing, I am using here a brackets here and the keyword new. I think for most of you probably it is because if you have some experience with the C# or languages like C++ or C, then the new, it's saying that we have a new instance of the object. So we have to say to the compiler that, hey, we are creating something new for this class. So we are declaring the name of the class, and then we are saying that it should be something something, and this something something is the empty instance of the new brep. Right now, if I will type da and get data, I can I can just type 0, referencing to brep, and right now my compiler will start to fill the data brep with the input which comes from this input. And then I want to set the data. I will correct it, and I don't want to have the brep at the end. I want to have here a building. But as you already saw, I didn't. It will turn. It will underline with the red line, because generally we didn't specify anywhere where the building and what does it mean. So I will type
as before. It was with the text, right? We have to create an empty instance.
And then when it comes to the building, you see that in the Rhino common there is no such a thing like a building. So the building which I'm typing right now, he already recommend, because he is taking it from our repository, from our folder which you see in the Solution Explorer. So if we would not add this building here, he would not see what the building is, and he would not suggest us this solution. I will just click tab, and finally we have a building. I will call it a building. And here we go. We have our first class. We are putting it into the output, and then we are able to fill it with some data. Right now it's completely empty. It's like it doesn't even have the name. By the way, okay, how we can make those name, because we give him a property of the name. So if I am typing right now building and putting a dot, I should have here a property name, but I don't see it. So per default, all of the properties and the methods are so-called private in the classes. So we need to have them change the name of them to be public, because then we will be able to change it. I remember that when I was starting programming, it was a little bit messing in my head why people make it private on the beginning but not public. But after some experience, I figured it why, because it's very easy to mess with the code. But if I will go back into my building, I will just type public here. And thanks to this keyword public, my properties will start to be visible from outside of this specific file building.cs.
So you have to write public to make it public. If you do not write it, so it will be not available.
It will be private. And in fact, the private, it's also a keyword, and this is generally per default, it's private, which means that nobody can see what is there. Nobody can change it. I will choose it to be public, and then from other places in the code, like in the create building, if I will type building, I will see slabs, columns, and probably there is a name. So we can call it our first building. So we will have some data into the building.
Just one question from Nenad. Why brep as a prefix is used? Maybe because we have to define the empty instance, right?
Yeah, but the prefix, you mean in the line 43, like why we are declaring a brep in general, or?
I think it's like the green brep, and then we have also brep, like to brep.
Yeah. This is just a name. It could be whatever. So this is the name.
Because it can be confusing, right? Brep.
Yeah, it can be confusing, but it's also generally the policy is to make the name of the variable meaningful, because later in the code.
So whatever is a not good example.
it's definitely the contra example. Like it should not be called like this, because later in the code, if we assume that we will have 300 lines of the code, 1,000 lines of the code, 3,000 lines of the code, then if you will have whatever and maybe whatever one, whatever two, then you will get lost. So I am trying to always name the variables from the small letter
I see.
and to make them something meaningful. But in fact, we could call it BREP to building, which is maybe something which is meaningful, and it has also the information what it will be used for. But if you are having just the BREP, it can stay the BREP. The most important is to not make it from the capital letter, because if you will do it, this is the name of the class, so he will not work. He will already say, hey, you cannot, unnecessary assignment of the value of BREP. So this will cause you a lot of, or it will not work at all. So I will stay with the BREP from a small letter because I start to do it like this. But it's a very good question. Sorry that I didn't explain it on the beginning, but as I'm saying, I would like to get in this workshop to the point when you see the possible usage of the creating of the plugin, and some parts of the code just take it as it is right now.
But maybe if you can just say 2 words, what actually we are going to create, maybe like
that's a good thing. But if I could wait 1 second more,
okay, no worries.
With the deconstruct building, then I will go and run the plugin, and it's really like 5 lines of code more, and we will have something which is giving you something, and it will be much easier for me to explain. Sorry that you have to wait a little bit, but let's go for the deconstruct.
Marcin is just building tension.
Yes, exactly. Like Hitchcock style, not like the new movies when we start from the
we know everything.
So the register input params in the deconstruct building, here we will go for the P manager, and this time we want to deconstruct the building class. So we will go for the generic parameter, and we will go for the GH param access item. I will call it, I will just make maybe the font a little bit smaller, and then we will go for the build, and then building class. And then we want to deconstruct it. And this is important because this will allow us to preview the geometry. So I will also explain a little bit later why it is such important thing. But if I will go for the add text parameter, GH param access item, here I want to have the name. So N. And I want to have a little bit more of the outputs in this case, because I would like to have also columns and the slabs. So we will learn how to make more of them, and also not text, but this time I want to have a line parameter. And for the slabs, I want to have a BREPs. And those will be columns, and those will be slabs. We'll call it CS and slabs SLS as the shortcut. You see that I'm not filling the description because it doesn't have to be. It's nice to have, but it's also a waste of time on this place in this situation. So what I will
and this description only comes when we are hovering the mouse over the input, right, or output in this case.
Yeah. So I will show it in a second where you can find it, but the most important is change to GA param access here for the list. So for the columns and the slabs, we should have the list. And okay, let's create our deconstructor. Let's go for, again, the building. This time I will call it a building and a new building. I will just approve with the tab. Then DA get data 0 referencing to building, and then we need to have DA set data.
I don't know why it's suggesting always 1. Is it something
1 because
that
he thinks that it's continuation of the 0, so he will learn after some coding hours. He will learn. So if I will go for the 0, then building.name, it will be the preview. And the second thing is that DA set data. Here I would like to have 1, it's the columns, and 2, it's slabs. So columns, it's 1. So here I want to have dot columns and slabs.
And just to be sure, like the index number is just the order how you are defining outputs, right? Is a
Yes.
0, 1, 2, how they are like supposed
0,
to.
1, and 2. After 2 slashes, you can make a comment. It will not be taken into the compiler. So as you can see, also 3 slashes, it generally create a comment. So in fact, we have our code. It's again the code which I'm creating. It's not perfect because if we will not give him the columns and the slabs in the building, it will not work. We don't have any if something is null or if something is empty. So in theory, we should make it a little bit longer, but for the purpose of this workshop, generally that's all what we need right now. I will just run it, and hopefully till the end of the workshop, we'll not have to stop it. We will just break it and change the codes, because the whole architecture of the system we already have created. So we have create building, and we have something which will be deconstructing it.
Yeah. So like normally when we are creating some components, so they're supposed to predict like if what will happen if there will be empty list, and what will happen if there will be like something, some scenarios that maybe will throw an error and maybe do something else.
It's definitely something which we should have in many places of this code to make it, let's call it, user friendly. If not, yeah. And then if we will go for the workshop, we see that in the building we have create and deconstruct building. So hey, we have already 3 objects in our plugin. So we have create and deconstruct. Let's go for the first one. We need some kind of the input. So I will just create some kind of the box.
So our brep.
It's a brep, definitely. I will go for an easy one right now. I will set this brep and bring it to my building. And hey, it's not red, so it's very good information. Generally, what we can see in the output, it's also not a brep, but this is a Chris Workshop 2024.building. So it's first class name with the Chris, I suppose. So now if I will go for the building and go for the deconstruct, it even work. So as you can see in the name, you see our first building. So you don't see any columns and slabs, obviously, because we didn't manipulate with the geometry yet. But the goal is today to make the columns and the slabs automatically from the brep. So generally, right now, it should be quite easy to understand what we want to do. Sorry, take 1 hour to present you the goal of the workshop. But yeah, I think it's quite clear right now what we want to do.
And when you are going to hover the mouse over the outputs, so you can see that it's a brep. So it's an icon of a brep. The same if you go to output for the name and building. Here's the data, and here we have a text, and we have the line, and we have the brep. So like everything is working perfectly.
Yeah, and also as you can see here, you have the description, which I was sometimes skipping, because generally you see that here it's writing brep, which in a second will be a building. In the columns and the slabs, generally the name is already very communicative, so you don't need really a description here. But obviously, if you want to play and create your plugin very user-friendly, then it would be nice to use it. So what we will do right now.
Just one question just before you
Yeah.
go. We have the one question. Maybe I can interrupt you. It's more about general about the C#. So in the C#, the class is always the first metonym on the line.
It's the class. It's sorry. Again, you can repeat what was.
So in the C#, the class is always the first, and it's called metonym. But I think on the line, I'm not sure what does it mean. Do you know what is referring to?
No, sorry, but generally this line here, if you are talking about the class line, each library which we are using has his own collection of the classes. So if the line it's a problem, then probably you are generally missing this rhino.geometry. But the whole, I will just break the system. So I will click break all, because then I will be able to change the codes. So you see the application is in the break mode. And then if I can click either here on the building, either go into the solution manager, explorer, sorry, and choose the correct place in which I want to be. I will go for the create building. And generally the classes in C#, we can say that almost everything is a class. So even the double, d equal to 1.0, it's also a class, because somebody has to specify what is a double. Also the the protected override void, it's also a class. Also the public class create building, it's a class. So as you can see, it's a class in a class, what we are doing right now. But it's kind of the problematic on the beginning. And if I would go into the story of the
it's not the purpose of today workshop, so let's leave it. But I have some 2 more questions. Do you know about Mac? Is the same process to follow for writing a script?
I think the C# it's exactly the same, but I never run the code from the Visual Studio from the Mac. So sorry, I will not help you. I
but
never
what I heard, I haven't tested myself, but what I heard that the method of creating is straightforward. It can be applied for Mac as well.
I think so, because generally we are right now creating a plugin directly to the software. So exactly the same code has to be applied. So
yeah, and I know that David Rutten, who is creator of Grasshopper, he's using Mac, so he probably created some comments. So from Nenad, he just wrote like about the C#, the class like building, and then building with the short name equal to whatever.
Here, if I will type instead of the new building, because at first it's not a QL, it's a sign. A QL is 2. So if we want to compare something with each other, we use a QL. If you are using one QL sign, then it's assigning. If we are assigning to whatever, we will have a problem, because right now, in fact, we don't have a correct constructor in the building class, and those how we are specifying a building. But I will show you maybe this in a second when we will be creating our first geometrical objects from this place, because it will also a little bit open your eyes on the how we can use classes. I will go right now and I will do the first thing. So I would like to investigate, or I would like to create the slabs. So I would like to generally create a B-reps on the specific height of the B-rep. So I would like to make a double and name it floor height equal to, for example, 3. And I would like to populate my building with the this 3 meter spacing in between the floors. So we have floor height, which is a variable. We will be able to change it or maybe create an input for it. And then I would like to create a planes which will be cutting my B-rep. And by this, we will be trying to create the floors. So the question is, what is the minimum of the BREP which we are giving. And to get it, I will use something which is called a bounding box. You probably know bounding box from the Grasshopper. It's generally the cubic, which is in the global coordination system trying to create a small cubic which is describing the whole geometry. So every geometry, every BREP, we can change into the bounding box. So get bounding box will lead us to change the BREP into the bounding box. I will call it var bb BREP get bounding box. Let's see. And if accurate, I will type true. Okay, so I used var, and this can be a little bit confusing for you. I could also write bounding box, and it will also work. Var will automatically try to guess what kind of the class of your object is. So it's a little bit like in the Python when you don't care, you are just typing a equal to point3d, because then the Python will cover it. He will figure it out that the a it's point3d, and so the var it's working a little bit in this in the same manner. But generally, let's stay with the bounding box, because maybe for the beginning it will be more didactic to leave the correct class name. Okay, we have the BB. The BB is the bounding box. From it, it's very easy to find the minimum zeta coordinate, because in fact, if we go for the BB, we'll have something like minimum, and then this minimum is generally a point. So if I will get the z, this will be my zeta coordinate minimum of the BREP which I'm giving to the code. So double minimum z, it's equal to bb.minimum.z. So from this moment, I have actually the minimum z coordinate of the BREP which I'm giving, and I can start producing the floors starting from this minimum z up to the top. But I would like to know what is the top, because I don't want to create floors over my BREP, which is the obvolute of my shape. So I want to have also the maximum z. And
so it's suggesting.
Yeah, it's suggesting quite well. And the more we will be writing, the better it will be. So that's why I'm saying that once you will get into coding in Visual Studio, it's hard to get back into the coding in Grasshopper.
Yeah, I see the huge change about the colors, about the suggestions. It's like completely something else.
So now let's make our first loop, which will be producing planes. So to produce the planes, I would like to first create some kind of the list. Creating a list in the C#, it's a little bit more demanding than in the Python, because first you have to declare a list, then put what kind of the objects will be there. So unfortunately, this is a little bit more of the writing, but in the Visual Studio, you are just typing tab later. He will figure it out. List plane, planes, new list plane. Then what we want to do, we want to create, let it be for loop, for, or maybe while loop. Let's make it like this. Sorry, I will get back to the for, because from my teaching experience, it's something which is always easier to accept. So I will go for the integer I equal to 0. So this is the starting.
So we are starting from 0.
We are starting from 0, then the I, but this is just the interval. So it will be changing in every for loop. So I will be smaller than something. Let it be, for example, 30, and then I plus plus. So to make some, let it be safety thing. So let's say, because we don't know yet how big the BREP can be, because we don't know, for example, one of you can design in millimeters, and then we put a floor height number 3. And then it will create, if you will create 3,000, then it will create 1,000 of the planes. So to block it, I would like to say that the maximum amount of the of the slabs which he will produce, it will be 30. Later we can discuss how to change it, but let it be on the beginning like this, because it will be more safe for everybody during this. The I, it's starting from 0, so the double Z, it's equal to minimum Z plus I multiplied by the floor height. So let's start like this. The double Z, minimum Z plus I floor height. And if Z is bigger than the maximum Z, then I would like to break it. So there are two conditions which can get me out of this loop. One is that we will cross the number of the floors, which is 30. And the second is that we cross the maximum Z. And now what we want to do, we want to produce the planes. So I will type plane, new plane, and here a little bit of the using constructor. Normally, I was teaching you that you can create an empty constructor and fill it with the data. But if you will open it, here you have one of 6 constructors. I will choose the one which I want to choose. I will choose that one with the origin point and the vector 3D.
And so, you can just change it with the arrows pointing down.
At least the suggestion I can change with the arrows. But later, if I will fill it with the data, the changing of the arrows will not change. It's just for me to understand how to apply it. Yeah. So here it's waiting for the point. So I will give him a new point 3D. And then I will type 0, 0, and Z. And then the comma, new vector 3D, 0, 0, 1. So this is creating a point in the location of the Z. It's starting from 0, so on the beginning it will be minimum Z plus this one, plus 0. In the next iteration will be plus floor height multiplied by I. So it should work quite good. The vector 3D, it's it is completely vertical because I want to have X, Y planes which will be cutting my BREP. And finally, if I have those list of planes, I don't have a list of planes because I have to right now a single plane. I want to just type planes add plane. So after this one, I will have a collection of planes. This collection of planes, I want to cut my BREP to produce the slabs. So list BREP slabs equal to new list BREP. And this is a good instruction. Let's try to use it for each plane in planes. What we want to do, we want to intersect the plane with the BREP which we have from the input. So with this BREP which is coming, I want to cut with my plane. So I will go for the Rhino, or I will go probably for the intersection dot BREP plane, and then finally I will be able to BREP and the plane will be exactly what I need, but there are some other things like tolerance. I can type 001 in a second. I will tell you also about this tolerance. The smaller the tolerance, the quicker the algorithm is working. But generally, we should use the tolerance of the Rhino document. Here, I will stay with 0.001 because the geometry will not be very sophisticated, so it will work. And then something to get the curves, because from the intersection of the plane and the BREP, we will have the plane curves, and we will have the points. So out curves and out PTS. And let's try to...
What will happen if we are not going to specify any tolerances, if we are just forget about it? This will be error, or...
think it will be a warning, or it should be a warning. But in the previous versions, in some earlier versions, it could work. But right now, suggested is to use the tolerance every time.
Okay.
So I need to create some variables for my curves and the points. And as you can see, I'm not using a list, but I am using just the rectangular brackets. It's saying that I am creating an array. Till now, I was mostly using lists of the objects, but now we generally see the arrays. Arrays are a little bit simpler, but yeah, it's the other way of declaring it. So I'm just right here. This is array. And what next is that after this intersection.brep plane, he will fill those curves with curves which are there from the intersecting. And the deal is that those curves will not be connected. So I would like to connect them. So I would like to create one curve, one closed curve, because based on this one closed curve, I can create a slab. So curve dot join curves, curves, and later brep slab equal to brep dot create from, yes, it's a lot of them, how you can create. I am searching for the flat, sorry, maybe it's create planar, sorry, it's called create planar breps. And then the only input which he needs, it's generally the join curves. Yeah, I didn't declare curve boundary, curve join curves, and then boundary. And there is one thing, he's turning red because generally curve join curves can lead you to the collection of the elements, but I will just skip it for now. And also here, because I'm quite sure that it will have just one.
Can you repeat why you just put 0 in the parentheses?
Yeah, in the parentheses there is a 0 because from the joining curves, you can imagine a situation when you have a lot of curves, like curves on the right side of the screen and on the left side. Both of them will create closed curves, but they will be separated. So from using this method, you can have not only one joined curve, but several. But I am quite sure that my plane in this situation will produce only one closed curve. So I will use always the first one, because it will work. And exactly the same is with creating planar curves. We can have a planar curves in several places. So I'm using only the first one. Normally, I would say it should be in the if statement. And if there is plenty of them, then you should create plenty of them. But again, we want to finish it, the workshop today. So we need to have some simplification and some just a small agreement that the code which we are giving you, it's generally not explained in 100%. But it's something which you can start your journey, and it should be somehow explaining, but also it should give you some. Oh yeah, one last thing, that we want to put those slab into the slabs list, because we want to have slab add
as a result, right?
Yeah, as the result. And finally, the building slabs should be equal to slabs. So we are
going to, don't worry, we are going also to share this script and this code. So, and just because before you're going to click play, because you used array, and we have the question from Grzegorz. What is the difference between list and array in C#?
It's array was first from historical perspective. The list has came later. They are very similar, but the key thing is that when you are declaring the array, you have to declare on the beginning how much memory it will take. So you have to declare how many elements will be in the array before you will start filling it. And the list has came later with the development of the programming language, and it's allowing to dynamically declare the memory without saying how much memory you want to declare for holding the data. So in fact, the array, it's more stiff. The list, it's much more generic. And right now, most of the people are using lists because it has also much more options. But the array can be sometimes faster. And generally, if you have been programming 20 years ago or 50 years ago or 40 years ago,
you would like to just say that you are old school programmer. This is what you would want to say,
no,
right?
no, definitely. I didn't program 40 years ago, but the thing is that the people who invent arrays, they were old school programmers. So probably the reason why we have out curves and here we have an array of the curve is because it was developed on the very beginning of the development of the Rhino. Because I don't see a purpose right now of keeping the arrays. I would say that definitely it should be a list, but it is how it is.
Yeah. Let's keep going to Rhino and Grasshopper, and let's see what we have.
Yeah, let's see what we have. Finally, we have the elements. I will recompute it, and we have first the error. Let's take a look. Value cannot be null, and this was something which already we mentioned that the 0 it's here, but I was hoping that we will go without if statement, but unfortunately we have to make it. But also you see right now that the Visual Studio automatically stops when he sees the error, and he's allowing you to adjust the code. So I will just type if curves are not equal to null, then do this. Did the code? Let's try. And I will put everything into this formula. So probably somehow maybe the first plane or one of them, it didn't cross the brep. So this was probably the problem. I will click then continue. I will recode it. And already we see that we have slabs. So I will go back to the code to show you how the code is looking, because maybe I was changing it too fast. So I make if curves are not empty. So if the brep plane didn't cut the brep didn't cut the plane, then it should be null. Then you should not succeed with the further code. In fact, probably we should make another if statement for the brep create planar boundary. It should be every programmer probably would suggest me to do that, but I want to minimize the code and make it run. And again, let's try to see in the Rhino and Grasshopper, we have right now a brep which is this size. Let's just move it. We see that it's following. So
can you just make perspective view bigger?
Yeah, let's make the perspective bigger. And also I will go for another layer and generally turn off the visibility of the brep. So I will just present the slabs. So now you see that I will just maybe change it to wireframe. Nice. So let's try to elongate it. Let's try to scale it. Let's try to move it. And probably one of the criteria should be 30 planes, so 30 floors. So we see that it's also working quite well. And the next thing is that, okay, what if I will make the geometry pipeline? I will take every brep from my layers and connect it here. And what if I will start to draw more of the buildings?
Nice. So it's working with that lists as well.
Yeah, it is, because it's treating every brep as a single item. So it should be a little bit changed in my perspective to have the list access, but it will be working. Let's also try something more. Let's try some
more fancy stuff.
Yeah.
Not just rectangulars and boxes.
Let's take the curve here. Set one curve. Let's take the boundary and let's extrude it. Probably I was drawing in 3D. Project to C-plane will make the deal. The direction unit set, and let's say I would like to have it for 30 meters, and we will have a slider. So if I will connect it here, we see that it's also calculating, and then when we are changing it, it's also changing.
No, so impressive. It's impressive that everything works. So good work on that.
Yeah, and as you can see, it's extremely fast. Probably the most demanding stuff, because probably if you will do it with the normal Grasshopper code, I don't want to compare it right now, because but definitely it will be slower. And also the good thing about it is that generally until you will not deconstruct it and preview the B-reps, then probably it will be very, very fast. Like, because previewing of the geometry, it's really taking most of the power of the computer. So in fact, if you want to make some operations like checking the changing the height of the floor and so on, then you can do it without previewing the geometry if you want to test, for example, some other specifications and so on. So not always previewing of the geometry it's expected. But okay, we have
still 20 minutes left. So for sure you have something more to, or you would like to present something more, or should we go to questions, or what is the idea?
It's maybe, I don't know, because we can create the columns, which is generally an interesting code, but I'm a little bit skeptic if we will manage in 20 minutes.
Okay. So I have some really interesting questions. So let's go to question, because this one from Richard. Would you recommend first building the algorithm in Grasshopper, then porting it over to C#? And it's a really good question, because when you were like solving everything in C#, for me, everything when you wrote a code, everything I have to translate it to how I would do it in Grasshopper with this component. Okay, BRAP, planes, and tolerances. And what is your practical view? Are you building some prototype first in Grasshopper, or with your experience, you are going directly to C#? So what is your point of view on here?
It's a little bit, it's a good question, and there is no simple answer. Because there is not only about the experience, and because some of the codes, when we are talking about some application of the machine learning, some application of the different libraries, not always you can use only Grasshopper. So there is also some limitations in using C# script editor in Grasshopper. So not always I can do the prototype, but whenever I can, I highly recommend to do it. So if I'm, especially on the beginning, when you are learning, it's really, really recommended to try something with Grasshopper, pure Grasshopper, then maybe try a part of the codes into the C# script. And then if you already have the idea, you see that it's working, then I would recommend you to do it in the Visual Studio. But Visual Studio, as you can see already, it's really helping you in creating the code. And also the classes and creating the classes are not really possible to make in other environment. So at some point, you how to say, not everything you can test again in the create the prototype, the whole prototype in the Grasshopper. So unfortunately, sometimes you have to go into pure coding, and you have to wait a little bit until you will see the effects, which also for me it's very frustrating, especially because not all the options, not all the instructions are working exactly the same in the pure Grasshopper as it is working in the C# in Visual Studio. But definitely, if you can, you should create the prototype in the Grasshopper. So,
from Maria, what about using Visual Studio Code? Would it work for me? I'm not allowed to install proper Visual Studio to my working computer.
I'm not sure if you can use the Visual Code, if there is a, I never tried, to be honest. So Visual Code, I can check because I'm mostly using Visual Code for Python coding. And I don't think they have create templates for the Grasshopper. So if yes, then it should be okay, but I don't think so, because Visual Code is a light version of the Visual Studio, but I can check it.
So if you have any questions, so please let us know. We have still 15 minutes, so we will try to answer the questions. Just one reminder, in 2 weeks, exactly in 2 weeks, we are going to have another workshop with Marcin as well, but we are going to have Sfera. And we're going to discuss about the new script editor in Rhino 8. So actually, Marcin is going to present how to write a little bit lighter version than today, not that hard coding. Maybe for you, we'll see the difference, why Visual Code Studio is so much nicer. And Sfera is going to show how to import all the new libraries in the for the Python 3 that is available in Rhino 8. So I really recommend to join a webinar. And we would like to announce that at the end of this workshop, we are going to open the second edition of Programming in ESC Fundamentals, where we are going to open doors for new students for registration. So for those who are not familiar, Programming in ESC, it's Python and C# trainings that are conducted by Marcin, C#. So you already know today how he's teaching, how is he showing programming. But in the C# in ASC, he's more focused on Grasshopper environment. So he's working mostly in the Grasshopper, but actually he's also showing how to make code in the Visual Studio. So
it's much slower tempo, I think,
yes.
in the and more exercises. But just since we have a little bit of time, maybe we can just slightly modify the code, because now I see that we have only brep, and maybe just to give you a little bit more interactive system which we can create, let's put this floor height as the input.
Okay.
Then maybe it's, sorry that we will not go into the columns, which are kind of the interesting code. And if you
no
want,
worries, but we have lots of questions. I think like people are here also for questions. So yeah, so just to finishing. So in 2 weeks we are opening for everyone who will be interested in joining more advanced, like maybe not more advanced, more advanced than this, but a step-by-step process how to learn programming in ESC from really basics. So we are going into theory of the C#. So there is more what is class, how to work with all the instances, how to define variables. So you can sign up for the waiting list, and we will let you know. Okay, so let's go to some question. How difficult is to transpose the C# plugin Grasshopper into the Rhino main environment plugin? Have you ever tried?
To be honest, I started from creating the Rhino plugins. So it's different template and you have to rewrite it again. So it's not that you can somehow, of course, the operations which you are doing today, it's based on the Rhino geometry. So all of the instructions are very similar, but the template is completely different for creating the Rhino plugin. So it's a little bit different way of doing stuff. So it's not one-to-one, unfortunately.
Cool. Caesar asked, does your components have multiple functionality, or do you keep one functionality per component? What is your, are you trying to build like a one huge component that solves everything, or you are trying to?
Till now, I have developed around 20, 30 plugins, maybe smaller or bigger, some commercial, some for the research. And it's always depending on the task. We have been developing at Multiconsult. We are still developing kind of the big plugin for creating a similar thing, like designing from the BREP, all of the analysis which we can do to the building. And then the plugin, it's huge. It has like 20, 30 components with some plus deconstructors, which are taking another 20, maybe 30 components. So in total, it's around 80, maybe with all of the extra components. But it's really depending on the task. I have been also creating a plugin with just one component, so it also can happen. So yeah, it's
Ivan, it's easy to get lost in the web. Isn't there any C# for Dummies book that you recommend, or it is still the forum best learning source? So
our course is quite good, I think.
I can recommend, because this is really, we are going through basics for those who are even not familiar with Grasshopper. We are also having Grasshopper fundamentals, so we are really starting from zero, no programming experience, no knowledge about data types, data trees, lists. So we really recommend to go that. We have also some free materials. So just write to me at chris@learngrasshopper.com or on LinkedIn. So I can also recommend something for you. What IDE are you using for Python?
Oh, for Python? It's the newest one, 3.12, I suppose. So, and then Visual Code. So that's what I'm using.
Let me see more. How to program of adding input-output parameters from Grasshopper, like in merge component?
Again?
How to program of adding input-output parameters from Grasshopper, like in merge component. So like if you have this plus button, I think it's about that one, that you can add input, as you can on the top. Maybe you can share it, like when you zoom it to merge component in Grasshopper, so you can add some inputs.
Oh, like, this one.
This one. Yeah.
So you can add plus and
yes.
That's a little bit more complicated thing. It's in fact, it's you have to go into a little bit more of the hard coding. I don't think there was. Then we have to declare our own interface. It's definitely not for today. It's, but it's possible. I think there was on the Grasshopper forum, a quite good instruction how to do it. I think David Rutten was showing it on one of the of his posts. So it is definitely possible. But in fact, I never did it. I was adding some extra buttons to the interface, but I never did this plus minus. So in fact, but always those operations are taking much more time. So if you, it's not that there is some easy way to do it.
Colin asks, how can I optimize Rhino Grasshopper to load more quickly when debugging from Visual Studio? Can I disable certain features that are not needed for debugging?
Some of them you can. If you go into the preferences, generally you have the. But to be honest, like I would just silence some of the libraries. So, for example, this is my repo. So those are all of my plugins which I just turn off to
How
not.
How many of them are you using?
Some of them are different versions of it, but right now mostly I am using just one, to be honest, the one which we are developing for multi-consult. But of course, the Karamba I am using and the Fem Design. So sometimes it's just about frozening the GHA file. So, for example, the special folders, component folders, and you can just move some of them before you will. Sorry, why it didn't open? The file, special folders, component folder. Yeah, it's here. So it's empty right now because of the workshop. So I moved everything out of it to not have any new elements which are.
Yeah. So the easiest one to throw away some of the libraries that are not used.
Yeah, because all of the plugins which are allowing us to stop them from working and organizing them, I don't remember the name of those plugins to control the number of the plugins. They will not work from the Visual Studio. So it's a different thing. So
yeah, but it's a good tip. Let me see. From Michał. Hi, Michał. And what if the debug executable specify in the Rhino 8 netcore debug profile does not exist? Show up when I try to run debug mode.
Okay, probably you are missing some of the net libraries here. One of the solutions could be that you have, for example, and this is exactly the same thing which somebody on the beginning asked, that he did have a problem with the consistency of the net framework. One thing that when I will show it because this is the end of the workshop, so it should be, you have something like Visual Studio installer. And then here you can modify a little bit your Visual Studio community or Visual Studio. And here you have net desktop development. And you have to be sure that your net desktop development has a 4.72 development tools and the newest one. Generally, because the new package for the Rhino 8, it's using .NET library. So generally, it should be also here visible. So if you see, for example, here a red or yellow information that something is missing, also you can go for the project and the properties and see what is the target framework. Right now, I have this one, not Net 7.0 Windows, Net 7 and Net 48, and it's working quite good. If you are missing, probably not Net 48 should be enough, but it's really depending on which also system you are using right now, and in which system it's generally your Windows working.
Yeah, it really depends. It's really complicated. What system, what version?
It's a little bit. You have to check what first. It's because both of them should be working. I could disable Net 7 and stay with the Net 48. It should work, but then you have to be sure that you have a correct framework installed with this visual installer. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Cool. How to add icons to your components?
The most important thing. Fancy icon. It's like there is several ways. The easiest it's to go for the project. I think. The resources are here. General, create or open assembly resources. Then add resources. Then add existing or add new icon or add existing file if you have something. So I don't know if I have something right now. Let's be...
Maybe some picture of your baby, some of your child.
In the remember that those icons have to be rather 24 by 24 pixels. So yeah, it is at least a safe way of sharing the picture of the baby. So so icon 1, it's appearing here as icon 1.bmp. Unfortunately, BMP, I'm not sure if it is a correct one, but then later in the create building in the here you can return resources dot your icon. But I don't think the BMP is a correct format, so I'm not sure if it
but it explains everything. Okay, so last questions from Sergey. When will the programming in ESC fundamentals training start? It starts in 2 weeks, actually in the 19th of November. So there will be big opening. So we are opening it on our workshop about using C# and Python in Rhino 8. And comment from LinkedIn, will the second edition of the course differ from the last year first edition? So for those who are already in the first edition, so they will get all the updates for the second one for free. And it's also for everyone who will join second edition. So they will also get new updates for the third one, because we are planning to do. We still don't know when the third edition will be, so we are really encourage you to join second edition, but we are going to add some new materials. So they will be posted, so we are going to post it what will be added on in 2 weeks. So please sign up for the workshop. It's going to be really great workshop, because this, especially for Python, that in C# that not that much has been changed, but yeah, new libraries. Maybe you can also, Marcin, show some new libraries that you can import in Rhino. So
in this workshop, definitely I will show you some stuff, and definitely connected with the AEC sector. So for example, IFC libraries, maybe some speckle libraries, how to connect. So we will see. But generally, also just to mention that there will be some new stuff connected to the new edition, because I think that the basic things will stay the same, but the new stuff will be added definitely, because we want to.
And we are waiting. Also, are responding for the students' feedback. So they are asking for the new connection, something new that should be added. So we are really open to that one, to propose then what will be the new chapters. Okay, 9 p.m. Central European time. It's already late, so let's finish it. Exactly 2 hours. I think it was amazing that what you presented, and I think that the aim was not to create, like follow the every step and understand all the logic behind, but just to enter the Visual Code Studio and try to build first component. And I hope that most of people manage to do that. So again, thank you very much. We get really great responses, great feedback on that one. So I really appreciate, Marcin. And yeah, we are going to see in 2 weeks. So we are going to still going to work in the text-based programming. So we are going a little bit outside visual programming, but still in the best environmental, which is Rhino and Grasshopper. Okay, thank you a lot for being with us, and see you in the next workshop and webinars. Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye.